What's that tune got to do with Newcastle losing or Belfast? Well, nothing really, but it was what we sang in Manchester in 1993. I was a slip of a girl. We were all gathered in Castlefield Basin waiting for the outcome of Manchester's bid to be the winner in the Olympic bid that we'd made. And when it was a no, we all sang that song. Always look on the bright side of life. Had it been a couple of years later, we might have been singing Don't Look Back in Anger. But Oasis only wrote that a couple of years later, that iconic tune. So you might imagine it was disappointing, but bidding for that event was built like the Roman Castlefield on firm foundations, the previous bid, and the work done on that went into the next bid, and the next bid was the Commonwealth Games, which Manchester was successful in. And the designs for the City of Manchester Stadium became the Etihad Stadium, where Man City now play. So things are recycled, things are upcycled, things can be reimagined, revisioned. And I run a festival of thrift, so I like a bit of upcycling and recycling. I wasn't an Olympic fan, I wasn't a sports fan, and I used to have to whisper it living in Manchester. I wasn't really a footy fan, but I was passionate about that city that I perceived to be mine, even though I wasn't born there, I wasn't bred there. I went there and I was welcomed into that city, like everybody else who comes new. So I wanted to contribute as much as I could, and I wasn't a sports person, but we've all got something to offer, haven't we? There are 64 million artists amongst us, I'm told. Each of us has got something to offer. And so thousands of us did contribute in different ways for the Olympics, the Commonwealth Games. We went on and volunteered. And actually, I think that model went on to be the Olympic model and was reused and recycled there. Thousands of us welcomed people into the city in the way that I was welcomed when I arrived there. And can I just say a quick thank you to the welcomers here, John, Josh, Ahmed, Billy, at the cloakrooms. A lovely warm welcome here, which is, I think, a really important element in any bid, any successful project that we might all run. So I've got my bag of cliches here, my bag of truisms. Look on the bright side of life. It takes all sorts. It's not just the arts people, as we've heard, who write the bids, who deliver the bids. That working together of all sorts of people from all kinds of backgrounds with different attitudes and agendas can find the point of connection, the place where they meet, rather than focusing on the differences, whether they're political or attitudinal. Finding the place where they meet. And this is what happened in the North East, when the region's really traditionally fiercely quite competitive authorities decided to support NewcastleGateshead bid to be European City of Culture 2008. Yes, the Mackhams of Sunderland got into bed with the Teckhams of Newcastle, as well as those from Northumberland and County Durham and the Tees Valley. They all got together and supported NewcastleGateshead's bid. A funding partnership was established. Newcastle and Gateshead Councils, yes. The Regional Development Agency, One North East, if you remember those. Tyne and Weir Development Corporation, the Northern Rock Foundation, together with the Arts Council of North East, got together an impressive budget that they were going to put towards the bid, should they win. And those partnerships had already worked together really closely to draw in European funding to build the Sage Gateshead, to build the Millennium Bridge, to refurbish the Baltic Mills, to put together MEMA in Middlesbrough, and bring that wonderful Angel of the North to fruition. And I really wish we'd done more to tell people that that was European money. I don't know how they thought they'd sprung up, but had we said that more loudly, I think there might be a different attitude now to what Europe can achieve. So all the key cultural organisations in Newcastle Gateshead, Dance City, Northern Stage, Tyneside Cinema amongst them, they already worked together in a loose kind of coalition, and they all backed the bid as well. And the destination marketing agency Newcastle Gateshead, which of course is a construct, it's a bridge between two authorities, but it became the brand, and they worked together with all their marketing expertise and all the connections that they'd made. Public meetings, hundreds of public meetings, postcards, emails, soliciting ideas, and inviting fiercely proud Northeasterners to show their support for the bid. The Newcastle-Gateshead bid incorporated themes of opportunity, innovation, environment, Europe, the future, emphasising the need to put children first, improve access to those cultural buildings that had just gone up, and develop new activities and resources, and provide access to new technologies and support local communities. And it emphasised the track record and the extensive experience of both councils in developing those major cultural and regeneration initiatives they'd already done. The assessors thought that the plans were strong in their commitment to relate to and involve all sections of the community, with considerable work undertaken to engage traditionally hard-to-reach groups. The programme also planned to leave a legacy of skilled artists and arts promoters with greatly improved training and exhibition facilities, and to expand further the cultural and transport infrastructure and create a permanent shift in attitudes to culture. Heady stuff. But you already know the end of this story, don't you? We didn't win. Well, they didn't win. When I say we, I was still in Belfast, where hope and history rhyme, said Seamus Heaney. And that was the name of our bid. And I was one of the grillees for Belfast. And we didn't win there. But the people who worked on the bid for Belfast went on and used their expertise and what they'd learned in the bid for Derry, London Derry. So nothing is wasted. Everything can be reused and recycled. We didn't win, but we felt the fear and did it anyway. So I arrived in Newcastle just in time to drink the champagne that had been put aside for the day of celebration, the day when the cameras were in Newcastle and not in Liverpool. So I quaffed it merrily and took advantage of those relationships that had been built. But those funders who'd got together and committed to the bid committed to another 5 years still working together, which, when I look back at it now, I think is quite astonishing and a tribute to all of those who worked together to make that bid happen. Obviously, every year I had to go back to them and show what we'd done and what we'd achieved and what we'd evaluated and who we'd engaged. But as Tony Flynn, who was then the chair of the North East Assembly, said, there's been massive support for the bid from people as far afield as Berwick in the north and Teesside, or Tees Valley, as we now call it, beautiful Tees Valley. These people are still the winners of the Newcastle-Gateshead bid. Investment in culture will not suddenly stop. Thousands of projects will still go ahead, and our commitment towards raising people's aspirations in all areas of their lives will continue. The bid has acted as a catalyst, speeding up the pace for change, and the benefits are there for everyone to see. Well, that was before we'd even started. So wonderful commitment at that stage to keep going and to keep on for another 5 years. So there I was in Newcastle-Gateshead with not quite an open book, because lots of ideas had already been generated and put in the bid. But let's be frank here, ideas that get written in a bid often get written by bid writers. Some of them, of course, are real, but then you have to make them happen. Then it has to be about delivery. So you have to recheck, you have to go back. Which of these things are we going to do? What are we going to achieve? So we focused very strongly on projects that would really animate the spaces across the region. It was a regional bid. It was called Newcastle-Gateshead, but it involved, and my programme involved, people from Berwick all the way down to the Tees Valley. So, building on the iconography, we worked with the Pet Shop Boys in the Swan Hunter shipyards, which had closed down. We built on people's strengths. You'll have seen images of Gateshead Flower Show being recreated over the wonderful Millennium Bridge. We built a restaurant at the end of a crane at the same level as the restaurant that would have opened at the Get Carter car park in Gateshead that was slated for demolition. That never opened. It was health and safety, didn't work. But we opened a restaurant at that level. And we listened to people to say, what is it that you want to celebrate? How can we really bring this region to life and bring attention to it? So all of that work was built on the partnerships already established. And Newcastle-Gateshead Initiative itself, as a membership organisation, encompassed all the businesses in the area. And that's continued to grow. bringing utilities, solicitors, banks, transport, education, cultural and tourism companies and institutions, bars and restaurants into a consortium, a coalition of people who support activity and attention being brought to NewcastleGateshead. And so, although they were unsuccessful in that bid, they recently, after all the work that's gone on, and we've got to take the long view, haven't we? Since then, more and more activity going on, and it recently led the successful bid, again supported by wider regional partners, to host the Great Exhibition of the North in 2018 and benefit from £20 million of government investment in the Northern Powerhouse. So good things come to those who wait. That's another truism. But it's not about hanging around and waiting, of course. There's lots of work that has to go on. And much of it is about building collaboration, being strengthened by the partnerships. So there's a clear recognition that a rising tide, and the River Tyne is tidal, a rising tide raises all boats, and not just liners coming up the river for their first visit. So NewcastleGateshead benefiting also benefits through Gritted Teeth Sunderland, also benefits Sunderland, also benefits Berwick, also benefits Durham. And the benefits can't just go to Newcastle and Gateshead. New figures show that nearly 500,000 international tourists came to the region in 2016. That's an increase of 23% in the last couple of years. And areas which have closed down tourism agencies years back, like the Tees Valley, are now reopening them. They're considering the need to reopen these places because more and more visitors are coming to the region. And for a region that is really focusing very strongly on the tourism economy in the wake of the departure of coal, that's really important. There's a real renewed pride, and pride is so important, and it's evident in other bids being made. Sunderland is bidding for UK City of Culture 2021. I'm rather hoping they don't get it, because Tees Valley is bidding for 2025. So we're not really competitive, but we sort of are. 2025, of course, is the year, as you all know, of the 200th anniversary of the world's first passenger train railway. So participation, really important. In the most recent figures, adult engagement increased from 60% in 2008 to 76% in 2013-14. That's against an increase of only 2% nationally. Extraordinary figures. Participation, so important. Some people are taking part in things like stripping off the Spencer tunics, iconic photographs. They're pale, mostly, northern bodies, contrasting with the cobbles on the city streets or the shiny sage Gateshead. So artistic and creative. But you know, they're not all in those kind of projects. A lot of them are involving themselves in smaller local dance classes or singing in community choirs, proud of their place and their place in it. Whether recent arrivals, like our new Syrian refugees, or Mackams or Tackams, or sand dancers, South Shields, or Smoggies, Middlesbrough. So all proud of where they come from. And that pride in showing off your part, your place in the world, the people, the buildings, the parks and rivers, the well-known and not so well-known corners of it, build a confidence in local residents. And you'll see all of that when you celebrate the Albany Empire or the Royal Court or St Pancras or Tottenham Lido or Toynbee Hall or Chelsea Physic Garden or lots of those places I've seen wonderful outdoor, Greenwich Peninsula. The local people are proud of those. But like Billy in the cloakroom, some people don't know their local area at all. They might know the icons, but the more interesting places are that building you go past every day. What's inside there? Wouldn't it be wonderful to explore it? I mean, I've just started a festival in a former Painters and Baldwin's knitting factory that's now a business park. Thousands of local people came. They'd never been inside it, or their granny used to work there, or they knew somebody who did. And that's much more of a sense of ownership. So we want to get people into our cultural places, but we also want to get culture into those local places. None of these celebrations are an end in themselves. So just as NewcastleGateshead's bid set out to ensure a legacy that's there today, more than a decade later, other initiatives have started which bore fruit years later. In 2007, we had a little Illuminate festival in Durham. that attracted Artichoke to come and have a look, and Durham to be proud about the idea of doing a light festival. Lumiere happened in Durham 2 years later, and then eventually it comes to London. So, other truism, mighty oaks from little acorns grow. But you've got to take the long view. So councils, at a time of reducing budgets all over the country, have got to make decisions and think about priorities. This needs to be a priority. So I wish each and every one of you good luck with your bid. After all, you are our great capital, and we're just as proud of you as you are that live here. And they say it's not the winning, but the taking part. But I believe taking part, truly participating, is the very best kind of winning.